Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Lasagna, bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports for you sports fans out there like you and me. If you're new here, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show. And if you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube, and turn on that notification bell so you'll be notified of each and every episode. And if you're listening to this on whichever podcast network that you're on, make sure to keep on listening. And rate and review the show, follow the show on social media, and it is at Very Cold Lasagna. But for those of you returning, welcome back. And this is episode number 324 of this icy yet spicy podcast. And in this episode, we have the second round, the semifinals of the 2025 to 2026 NFL playoffs. And that is the divisional playoffs, the divisional round of the NFL playoffs that is coming up this coming weekend. And we're here to talk you through our preview of said divisional playoffs. So we got 4 matchups this coming weekend. We've got the Elite 8 remaining for this playoff field, and only 4 teams will go to the next round, which is Conference Championship Sunday next week. So we're getting to close to the end of the playoffs relatively quick, en route to Super Bowl 60. And man, it's still a wide open nest of which team could go all the way to the distance to Santa Clara. And we're gonna get into this next batch of teams, next batch of games in the second round, the semifinals of these playoffs. So that being said, let's get right into it. Let's get right into these slate of games, these semifinal games in the NFL that is to come on both Saturday and Sunday. So let's get started. Starting with the Saturday slate of games, we have on the AFC and the NFC side a piece. So on the AFC side in the afternoon, we have the 6th-seeded Buffalo Bills taking on the top-seeded back to action and the AFC West champion Denver Broncos. So while these two teams didn't play each other in the regular season, this is a rematch of last year's AFC wildcard game in Buffalo, where the Bills were the number 2 seed and the Broncos were on the rise. They were in the number 7 seed. They had their first playoff berth in over 9 years. And that game didn't go exactly as planned for Denver. Despite scoring on the very first play, the Bills scored 31 unanswered points right after that, and the Bills won decisively 31-7 in Denver's first playoff appearance since Super Bowl 50. Here we are a decade later, and they have a chance to go back to the place where they last won the Super Bowl. But that road begins back here in the Mile High. So before we talk about the Denver Broncos, let's look back at the Bills' wildcard game in Jacksonville. Their road to the playoffs began last week against the 3-seeded AFC South champion Jacksonville Jaguars. They were down 24-20 late in the fourth quarter shootout. Josh Allen threw a pressure ball to Brandon Cooks that set up the go-ahead tush-push touchdown. It was the second one, by the way, after the first one was reversed on replay. But he managed to get a second one in at the goal line anyways, and they retook a 27-24 lead in favor of the Bills. Then on the Jaguars' last drive, corner Tre'Davious White deflected a pass from Trevor Lawrence to Jacoby Myers. It was a good pass, by the way, but unfortunately, not in the favor of the Jaguars. And Cole Bishop nabbed it for an interception to seal the win for Buffalo in a high-stakes game. 27-24. So the Bills, for as battered as they are, for as beaten up as they are with injuries, here they are in the semifinal round, the divisionals, with the top-seeded Denver Broncos. And that is due in part to the number 7-seeded LA Chargers being ousted by the New England Patriots. So they're the lowest seed remaining in these playoffs, and they have by virtue of winning as a 6th seed, they've earned this trip, and I used that in air quotes, to Denver. So by virtue of being the number one seed in the AFC, and that also goes to the NFC. I talked about this in my filthy casual preview last week in my preview to the playoffs / the first round of the playoffs. The number one seed, by virtue, gets the first round bye, so they're on a vacation of sorts while prepping for this second round game of whoever they play as the lowest seeded remaining. But nonetheless, they get a little bit of a break before their playoff matchup. So obviously Denver didn't play last week as they got to watch the playoffs unfold. So looking back at Denver's regular season, they were off the heels of their first playoff appearance in 9 years, as I mentioned. But they were looking to do more. They were looking to build on that appearance, on that first playoff appearance in 9 years, which unfortunately didn't go in their way, like I said. So in the offseason, they bolstered their already tough defense, although not by much, but they really didn't need to do all that much anyway. They bolstered their front seven by adding Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga, who Niners fans are very familiar with. And they added some pieces through the draft by the likes of Jade Barron and Syvion Jones in the front four. And then when you look at the offensive pieces, they drafted RJ Harvey, who ended up being a little bit of a gem at running back, and receiver Pat Bryant, while signing free agent tight end Evan Ingram to help out Bo Nix in the passing attack. Bo Nix was entering an essential second year to hopefully avoid that sophomore slump. But when we look at the start of the season for the Broncos, they were in danger of falling behind in the AFC playoff picture very early with a 1-2 start. But they managed to win 11 straight games before having that streak snapped and a loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But nonetheless, they managed to win 11 straight prior to that to get back into the picture and, more importantly, the AFC West race. Many of those wins, though, were very close comeback wins, self-induced or not. His wins were very highlighted by the fact that those wins were against the Philadelphia Eagles, the reigning defending undisputed Super Bowl champions at the time. And then you included a very notable 33-point comeback against the New York Giants at home. All those 33 points came in the fourth quarter. The first win versus the Chiefs this season, the Houston Texans in a grinding game, and then the Green Bay Packers late in the season a couple weeks ago. So you look at those games against those teams. Yeah, this Denver team was a grindy one. And then the second win over the Chiefs on Christmas, it gave them the gift of their first AFC West title in 10 years. And a win over the Chargers the following week in Week 18 gave them the AFC's top seed with a season best 14 wins. So yeah, they were the number one seed for the first time, since that Super Bowl winning season 10 years ago. So for all that's good with the Denver Broncos, they do come with some flaws going into this divisional matchup against Buffalo. Despite the comeback wins, they were pretty self-inflicted because the offense got off to a very slow start. And Bo Nix had some inconsistency and was the cause of those slow starts, to which that can be attributed to his slow reads on defenses. And he threw too off target to his receivers too often, whether it be like on the side, just throwing out of bounds, or he would take too long to read defenses to the point that he would get sacked. But nonetheless, Bo Nix would just get to a very slow start in games to the point where, I guess you could say he did incur somewhat of a sophomore slump. The only games where he looked definitively good in were against Cincinnati, the Dallas Cowboys, and those said Packers. I'd say the Jaguars loss where he really looked flustered in that game is where maybe where the Bills could really looked at film for his weak points. Bo Nix, his supporting cast also doesn't really have much of a consistent run game outside of RJ Harvey and Bo Nix himself, who still uses his legs. So going into this game going in the regular season, offensive coordinator Joe Lombardi he had to rely more on the passing game, which is solid in and of itself. And meanwhile, on the defensive side of the ball, for as good as their defense is, the backfield has a tendency to give up big plays at times, even with a backfield of that includes Patrick Surtain, the Pro Bowl All-Pro back, the defensive back. But yeah, they allow big plays at times, but they can also allow small plays that could turn into big ones. So not exactly ideal for a Denver defense that's pretty good in the front seven, but while it still is good in the secondary, yeah, those things can turn into some bad things. So looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the Bills, they're pretty injury riddled. Like injury mania is spreading wild in Orchard Park, and some of the notable injuries are within the receiver group. But let's talk about the ones that are out for this game. Like in the secondary, you have corner Maxwell Harrison and Jordan Poyer. They've been ruled out of this game with ankle and hamstring injuries. The ankle being Maxwell Harrison and Jordan Poyer. So another big hit to the secondary. And then when you look at the defense, somewhat of a positive note, Ed Oliver in the defensive line and safety DeMar Hamlin, they have a possibility of being activated off of injured reserve. They've been out for a while on IR, and would be a somewhat boost to their already beat up defense if they were to be activated. And well, for the Bills and their fan base, you got to be hopeful that they are activated because, yeah, they really need all the help that they can get against this Broncos offense. Another person that can be activated off of injured reserve is receiver Curtis Samuel with an elbow injury that he had in November. And honestly, that's the biggest weak point with the Bills right now. They are super depleted at receiver. It's to the point where, like, if they lose pretty much all they have left, like, could they consider, like, could it be forfeit city? Like, is that like there's a thing like in Immune Football League where if like all your receivers like die or something, you lose by forfeit. So if all the receivers, I'm not saying I don't want that. Like, is it a thing in the NFL where if all your receivers are injured in game time, you lose by forfeit? Not saying that I don't want that, but is it in the rule book? Because when you look at this receiver core, it's basically like depleted. Tyler Shavers and Gabe Davis, they tore their ACLs this past week. Josh Palmer was put on injured reserve prior to that game with an ankle injury. So that's three receivers, backup receivers, already gone. So they don't really have much to work with beyond Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir. And then obviously the tight ends, which mainly are within the mid-range passing game with Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. So that's basically all they have. So yeah, again, you got to be hopeful if you're a Bills fan that Curtis Samuel could be activated off of injured reserve. And if they have a receiver on the practice squad, well, activate him. For the Denver Broncos, they're pretty healthy going into this game. There is one notable player that could be returning for them and probably will. That is Dre Greenlaw. He's returning from a pulled hamstring that he suffered in week 16. So getting him back will be essential for them. And his other linebacker, Drew Sanders, he won't be coming back for this game, but if they win this one, he can return off of injured reserve. And yeah, he missed pretty much all this season with a foot injury, and getting him back would be good for Denver's linebacker rotation. So looking at the keys to victory for both of these teams, for the Bills, you got to force Bo Nix into mental errors. This has pretty much been the theme for Bo Nix's slow starts all regular season. And for the Bills to stand a chance in this game, the Bills front seven, they got to rattle Bo Nix just enough, or just get close to him to force a simple error. And then meanwhile, offensively, Josh Allen doesn't have a lot to work with at this point. He only has 3 receivers left until they get close to, if it's even the rule book, forfeit city. So yeah, all he has left is Brandon Cooks, Keon Coleman, and Khalil Shakir. in the deep passing game, alongside in the mid range, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid in the tight ends. So yeah, Josh Allen doesn't have a lot to work with. And that being said, he has to you got to keep things simple with your already depleted receiving core to survive in this game. So for the Denver Broncos, it's pretty simple. Bo Nix, he has to start much faster in games like this. And once he starts off faster, much more aggressive, he has to keep playing fast. You can't slow down, especially mentally. Like once you take the lead, you got to keep putting your foot on the gas pedal, because Bo Nix has a tendency to start off fast and then slow down slowly and even sometimes like rapidly. So he's very inconsistent. So like for Broncos fans, you gotta hope that Bo Nix really shows up in this game. Meanwhile, defensively, for their air defense, has been solid, but run game can be suspect at times to big gains, especially given that James Cook has been a productive back. So even if they're able to contain James Cook, they can't let Josh Allen push them around on the ground if he really is going to use his legs. So they cannot let Josh Allen get loose on the ground. So this is going to be, despite how beat up the Bills are going to be in this game, they're not going to go away. Like the Bills are not going to let themselves go away, even against the top seed Broncos, who are going to be healthy going into this game. And I feel like it's going to be a closer game than anticipated. And with that being said, for as beaten up, battered, injured that the Bills are, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Bills are going to win this game, just by a hair inch. Like, I feel like they have the better quarterback that can really try to make the most out of everything right now, in spite of like barely having anything left. Josh Allen is going to have to put on his Superman cape again to make something out of nothing. And I feel like in the Mile High, he's going to do it. And if Bo Nix, even if Bo Nix has the game of his life, I feel like Josh Allen's going to out-clutch him. So I'm going to go with the Bills in this one. So then you have the nightcapper down in Lumen Field in Seattle. You have my San Francisco 49ers, the number 6 seed, taking on the top seeded and NFC West champion Seattle Seahawks in a 3-match of their division series. The 49ers won the first matchup in Seattle all the way back in week 1, but it was the Seahawks who won the most important rematch 2 weeks ago in week 18 in Santa Clara, which earned them the NFC West and the NFC's top seed. So yeah, this is a 3-match of their regular season, but it's not just that. This is a 3-match in their playoff series. Yeah, they only met each other 3 times in the playoffs. No, 2 times up to now. Those 2 games obviously being the also notable 2013 NFC Championship game. Yeah, the Richard Sherman, Michael Crabtree game that all so Niner fans would really want to forget. And then just a few years ago, the 49ers beating the Seahawks in the 2022 wild card game in Brock Purdy's first playoff game. So yeah, we had that game. So looking back at my San Francisco 49ers first round matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles, they went into Philly as one of, if not the biggest underdog of the entire first round field of all the first round games. And surprisingly, they didn't get their ass whooped by Jalen Hurts and the Eagles and that front 7. And yeah, it was a wire to wire game for most of it. And yeah, Brock Purdy led a late go-ahead drive and found Christian McCaffrey in the end zone. And in the end, after that, they were leading 23-19, and they had Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. They had an opportunity to win that game on a pretty long over 3-minute drive, but the 49ers defense denied them of that opportunity, deflecting a pass to Dallas Goedert on their last fourth down, and the Niners managed to survive 23-19 to get to this point. For as being up as they are as well, here they are at this point with a divisional matchup with their division rivals. So, yeah, just like with the Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks didn't play last week. They were at home, taking a break, taking a gander at who they were going to play in the second round. And it comes to their division opponent in the 49ers. So looking back at the Seahawks season of the 2025 campaign, you look at how they were last year. They saw themselves sitting on the couch because they barely missed the playoff because of some weird tiebreaker with the Rams that saw them barely miss out on the division despite a winning record. But anyway, the front office made many changes to this offense. That included replacing Geno Smith, sending him to the Raiders, and in came in Sam Darnold with a big, fat 3-year, $100 million contract. And they also traded away DK Metcalf to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they also released Tyler Lockett in place of Cooper Kupp. So with all these wholesale changes to help out Jackson Smith-Njigba, along with getting another quarterback, the Seahawks underwent one of their best seasons since 2014, thanks to this very tough defense and a bend don't break offense. And they earned their best record since over a decade ago at 14-3. They got that record. They earned the NFC West and the NFC's top seed with a win over these 49ers 2 weeks ago. And when you look at this team, this is considered by many analysts, many fans, even if they're not a fan of the team, to be the remaining favorite to win the Super Bowl. I mean, I hate to say it. Objective. I can't really blame them. Defensively, they're a top 10 defense with a physical pass rush, a physical run defense surrounded by really good players like Byron Murphy II, Jaron Reed, Leonard Williams, Ernest Jones, and DeMarcus Lawrence. It's a very physical defense. So, they can really get to opposing running backs that can really shut them down. They limited the likes of Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, and Brian Robinson throughout the season. And they also possess a pretty solid ball hawking pass defense that can go man to man, which is led by Devin Witherspoon, Julian Love, Kobe Bryant, and rising rookie Nick Emmanwori, who played a pivotal role in that Week 18 win over the 49ers. And then offensively, you have a really good running back duo that came alive late in the season, despite their early season struggles in Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker III. They've lately been the bread and butter of the offense, alongside another great year from Jackson Smith-Njigba. So they've been pretty good. That offense has been thriving. The biggest question mark, though, obviously revolves around Sam Darnold, who made the playoffs last year as a Minnesota Viking. And he didn't do exactly all that well against the LA Rams. So he's on a different team now. He has a much better supporting cast, per se. But obviously the biggest question mark revolves around him. And for the Seahawks and Mike McDonald, the biggest question mark revolves around which Sam Darnold are they going to get? Because throughout the month of December, he's been pretty on and off offensively. He had a really good game in that comeback over the LA Rams, but then he kind of went silent the next game against the Panthers, and was also kind of silent against my 49ers. So regardless, though, you can't discount Sam Darnold and whether he will come alive at any point. So as they look to reach their first Super Bowl in over a decade and try to win it, Sam Darnold is going to be the biggest piece on how far the Seahawks will go. So looking at the injury report for my 49ers and as well as the Seahawks, obviously we all know the unfortunate news about George Kittle. He's gone for the playoffs, and probably next season as well, with the torn Achilles from the Eagles game, and he was placed on IR accordingly. In terms of this game coming up on Saturday, Jair Brown, he's not playing this game with the hamstring injury that he had against Philly. But on some more positives, at least we got positives going into this game. This is probably the most healthy we've been all season. Ricky Pearsall came back to practice finally from his knee and ankle injuries, and it looks like he's gonna play on Saturday. Hopefully Kyle Shanahan will let him play on Saturday because he's really wanting to play. So you might as well, because we don't have a lot of help at receiver. Demarcus Robinson, Kendrick Bourne, Juwan Jennings, not a lot. And I was just thinking to myself recently, didn't they just activate Jacob Cowing? Like, where's he been at practice? like why have they not let him go yet? Like, why did they not let him activating him off injured reserve? I don't know. But someone that has been practicing lately, and this has come as a surprise, Fred Warner. Yeah. He broke his ankle and fractured it too, back in Tampa Bay, all the way back in week 6 in Tampa Bay. And he was surprisingly designated to return from injured reserve. And while he's not playing in this game, he, when you look at videos on social media of him practicing, and he practiced for the first time since that game where he broke his ankle in Tampa Bay, he was moving really well. I'm like, I kid you not. And I was like, damn. When you look at it, the Niners felt something. The Niners really felt something. God damn. God damn it. It's it's as if they really want to win this game, not just for Kittle, for Fred, so they can give him one chance, just one chance for him to come back. And honestly, they hope to do that. So I'm really surprised. I'm really surprised that Fred Warner was designated to return from injured reserve, and that he's actually moving around really well. So good. I'm really happy for that. And some other players that were listed as questionable were D. Winters and Luke Gilford. They have a solid chance to play after they were back at practice. So hey, this is the most healthy that they've been all season. So take it for what you can get. As long as we can get at least somewhat healthy, good, and avoid any more major injuries, fine by me. So meanwhile, on the Seahawks side, they're also relatively healthy going into this game. The only notable injury was offensive lineman backup Josh Jones, who's still dealing with the knee injury, and he's not playing in this game. And there's another notable injury, and that was to Sam Darnold. Although he is slated to play in this game, he is listed as questionable with an oblique and abdomen injury, and he suffered that during practice on Thursday. But again, he's still expected to play. So, yeah, pretty much a non-issue for people that are saying, oh, Sam Darnold, and all that such. But, if something does pop up, then the Seahawks might have to call in Drew Lock, the backup, in that event. So look at the keys to victory for both these teams. For my 49ers, it starts with the run game. They got to get more creative with their run plays. Reason for that is because when they lost 2 weeks ago against Seattle at home, Kyle kept calling for McCaffrey runs in the middle when the Hawks defense was just too ready for that. It was too predictable. Now the old line should be a little bit better with Trent Williams there this time and fully ready to go. But Kyle Shanahan needs to, be more prepared this time. Hopefully learn something that didn't work 2 weeks ago, and maybe even as far back as week 1. And when they faced off, Kyle should be more prepared to call some different plays on the ground. Now I'm not saying experiment with something new because we're too far into the postseason for that. call some different plays on the ground rather than, get too repetitive with the McCaffrey runs, because, that Seahawks run defense is just too physical. I mean, not that McCaffrey can't get physical, but, you got to find some different ways to confuse this Seahawks run defense. If you are going to run plays with McCaffrey and Brian Robinson too, you got to get Brian Robinson more involved as well. Defensively, you have to sell out to stop Zach Charbonnet and Kevin Walker III. They had large degree in difficulty in doing this 2 weeks ago because of, the personnel they use and, the lack of personnel they had. So perhaps it'd be a time for a change to perhaps, especially in the interior, to start some different people like CJ West and Alfred Collins on run plays. Those two, they did pretty good for themselves, alongside Eric Kendricks and Garen Wallow, who was pretty much a no-name for me. I was like, who? This guy, and surprisingly, he did good too with those three in CJ West, Alfred Collins, and Eric Kendricks in stopping Saquon Barkley. So yeah, but obviously they have a bigger challenge because they're not just facing one good running back; they're facing two really good running backs that Mike McDonald can rotate in and out. So yeah, that's an even bigger challenge for them. So Robert Saleh has got to do all he can to stop both of them in order to force Sam Darnold's hand. Meanwhile, for the Seattle Seahawks, they have to keep attacking that 49ers defense with Charbonnet. But, Mike McDonald, he can't stray away from Sam Darnold and in the air attack, because if he keeps leaning too hard on the run, then, we won't find out. Like we won't, like when push comes to shove at some point, like he's got to know what he's gonna have with Sam Darnold in these situations. I mean, we know what he can be in a clutch time situation if we get the good Sam Darnold, but you get the bad Sam Darnold, you know what you're gonna get. So, at varying degrees, you gotta let Sam Darnold throw the ball. So. You can't forget about Sam Darnold in the aerial attack. Meanwhile, defensively, even if Trev Williams is is playing in this game, the offensive line for San Francisco is still not that not that well. So Seattle has a better defensive front that has proven twice in their matchups against the 49ers that it can rush and roughen up Brock Purdy. And yeah, the front seven must harass Brock like they did 2 weeks ago with relentless pressure and a lot of different looks. And both Mike McDonald and defensive coordinator Adnan Durd need to show that in this game. So this is going to be a very physical matchup, as has been and when the 49ers and the Seahawks faced each other in the two playoff matchups years past. It's always hard. It is always difficult to get the third victory over one another, especially for the 49ers 2 years ago. It's difficult to get a third straight victory, because they swept the season series, but in the playoffs when they met in the first round, it was difficult. It was kind of difficult at first, but then they eventually ran away with the victory over Seattle. But this time around, obviously, these are two different teams, so yeah. This is I think this is gonna be a physical matchup between both these two teams. The 49ers are gonna keep fighting and fighting. Hopefully, they won't suffer any more inducing injuries. It's gonna be raucous in Lumen Field. Obviously, it's gonna be in favor of Seattle. And well, should I put the thing on them? Should I do it? Should I do it? God damn it. should I do the that certain thing that I did for the Eagles last time? Yeah, why not? Why the hell not? So I'm gonna pick the Seahawks in this game. I'm gonna pick the Seahawks to win this game, if you know what I mean. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Even if, for all jokes aside, I mean, for as much as I want the 49ers to go to the distance, I mean, maybe this really is where the buck stops. But I'm just really hoping that the 49ers can really, really do something magical. And I didn't think that 2 weeks ago, but well, just gotta believe. Like I believe in Joe Hendry. But yeah, let's move on to the Sunday slate of games. We have on the AFC side, the 5-seeded Houston Texans taking on the 2-seeded AFC East champion, New England Patriots. These two teams didn't meet in the regular season, but this is the third time that these two teams have met each other in the second round. New England won both times, both in 2012 and 2016 under Tom Brady. So this time around, it's going to be much different. They have two different quarterbacks in CJ Stroud and on the New England side, Drake May. So yeah, it's a drastically different matchup under center for both teams. So both of these teams played in the first round. Let's look at how both they fared on wildcard weekend, starting with the Houston Texans when they faced the Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a low scoring affair for 3 quarters, and that was primarily thanks to bad offense from both teams, notably especially from CJ Stroud. So yeah, not a great game for CJ Stroud in that one. But then it's in the fourth quarter, it turned into an all-out Texans defensive slaughter on Aaron Rodgers, starting with Sheldon Rankins fumbling him for a touchdown, and then Caleb Bullock put the final desserts on A-Rod and the Steelers with a pick 6 to defeat the Steelers 30-6, and that sent Mike Tomlin out of the Steelers and potentially Aaron Rodgers into retirement. So yeah, that was pretty much the Texans' path to this game. Meanwhile, for the Patriots to earn this second home game, they had to outlast the Chargers. It was also a low-scoring game for them, but this one actually had actual good defense. But eventually, somebody had to win this one, and that was the Patriots when they eventually broke it open in the fourth, late with the game's only touchdown, courtesy of Drake May to Hunter Henry, and the Patriots defense finally stepped up. They finished their relentless night on Justin Herbert with a strip sack to win this one 16-3 to set up this game. So you have two very physical defenses on both sides of the ball. It's going to be a very upfield battle for the Texans for this game, especially with a certain receiver that they're going to be missing. But yeah, when you look at this game for the Patriots, obviously they're going to be very favored in this one with the youth, but also how physical they are on the defensive front, and how well Drake May is playing as one of the MVP candidates alongside another quarterback we're going to be talking about just in a moment. So looking at the injury report from both of these teams, for the Houston Texans, they're going into this relatively healthy, but the problem is their top receiver, Nico Collins, is not expected to play in this game because he's in the concussion protocol, and he's not expected to clear it because, given the fact that he played on a Monday night, he's not going to clear it in time. And another receiver that won't play for this Texans team is Justin Watson, who also suffered a concussion. So that's 2 receivers down for CJ Stroud. So yeah, you're going to be missing a lot for the Texans aerial attack. So you're probably going to be asking a lot more from Xavier Hutchinson and Christian Kirk, a lot of C-level wide receiver 3 guys in this game, especially against really good Patriots secondary. That's pretty rough. Meanwhile, for the New England Patriots, they're pretty healthy going into this game. Christian Gonzalez, he suffered a concussion in that Chargers playoff game, but it seems like he's going to be on track to clear the protocol after he was fully practicing this week. So that's good news for the Patriots. And they could also be getting some more defensive help in defensive tackle Chris Tonga. He's back at practice for the first time since week 16, where he got injured against Baltimore. So yeah, some healthy stuff for the Patriots. So looking at the keys to victory for both of these teams, for the Houston Texans, if they want to somehow manage an upset over the 2-seeded Patriots and one of the remaining Super Bowl favorites. You can't let Drake May escape past the line of scrimmage. Like, it's inevitable that Drake will get under pressure. The Texans have a top 5 defense, but even then, it's not going to be enough because May will scramble out of the pocket. He will use his legs, but that's where the Texans should stop him at. Like, they cannot let him get past the line of scrimmage. And yeah, in order for them to limit him and his offense as much as they can, they cannot let him use his mobility to extend plays, get first downs. They got to keep him they got to keep him behind the sticks, behind the line of scrimmage. So they really have to get up in his face. They really got to beat his offensive line in order for them to stay in this game. Offensively, obviously the number one thing is CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud has to play a much better game than he did in Pittsburgh. Like, look at the stat line. Like, even the stat line is not great, but when you look at the highlight reel, it's also not great. 3 self-inflicted turnovers, and how they were, like, it wasn't good. It really wasn't good. Like, he had an opportunity to like prevent those turnovers, and he still tried to make a really bad play, and it turned into a worse one. So 3 self-inflicted turnovers, if they weren't bad against Pittsburgh. If he commits those kind of turnovers against New England, it's gonna be even worse. With another AFC title game berth hanging in the balance, like, if they want to make that even such, for the first time ever, Stroud has to show up and play equal to his defense, despite not having much at the receivers. For the New England Patriots, obviously for Drake May, you got to outbeat a relentless Texans defense. The Texans will be coming at them fast, hard. So Drake May has to find a way to find his receivers relatively quickly, find his supporting cast all the way around. Running might be an issue against the Texans, even with Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Hendrickson. So it might be the Drake May show in this one. Their own defense, they got to find a way to pounce on like CJ Stroud. They also got to cause some errors from CJ Stroud. So their own defense, which is tough as well, they can also get the CJ Stroud. But if they can get CJ Stroud to cause his own turnover, like any self-induced turnovers from CJ, then they gotta get on that right away. So this is probably the easiest matchup to pick from this to pick in this game. I'm gonna go with the Patriots in this game just because they're the more balanced team. They have the better quarterback in Drake May. Their defense, even though I pretty much prefer Houston's defense at the right now, because their front seven is very good. They're very hard hitting. I think the Patriots, they have like a more balanced front with their own front seven, their secondary. Even though they tend to give up big plays at times, I feel like they can. I feel like they can ball hawk. They can go the distance with CJ Stroud's backup receivers. So I'm gonna give the edge to the Patriots. Then we have the final matchup of the divisional weekend, and that is the 5-seeded LA Rams going up against the 2-seeded NFC North champion Chicago Bears. So, yeah, pretty much like the other two matchups that I mentioned. They didn't play each other this season, but this is a 3-match in their playoff series, and this goes way back. There are 2 matches go way back in the day, unlike the others. So the LA Rams, they beat the Chicago Bears in the 1950 conference playoffs. So this is like way before like the NFL was a thing, but like this was like NFL, but not like pre-merger NFL AFL merger. So this is like the pre-merged NFL. This is on route to the LA Rams' NFL title. And then when we got to the actual merged NFL, For their second matchup, the Bears shut out the Rams en route to their Super Bowl 20 win in 1985 in the NFC Championship game. So this is a three match of sorts. And yeah, it's been what, 30, 40? I can't math, but 40 years since their last playoff matchup. So they both played on divisional weekend, not divisional, wild card weekend. Wow, we're already ahead of ourselves. They both played on wild card weekend last week. So let's take a look at how they both did. For the LA Rams against the Carolina Panthers, they jumped out to an early 14-0 lead, but their offense stalled out, and that allowed Bryce Young and the Panthers to claw back into that game and take a 31-27 lead late in the fourth quarter before Matthew Stafford led a game-winning drive that ended with a touchdown to Colby Parkinson to eventually win that game 34-31. And even in the win, they did not particularly play great in between the late in the second quarter and before the game-winning drive. So pretty alarming performance for the LA Rams, even with some people say resiliency. So yeah, it was a pretty concerning performance for the Rams. Meanwhile, for the Chicago Bears, well, yes, they did have some concerns of their own. They faced a 21-6 deficit over the Green Bay Packers. That was in their wildcard game, by the way. But they went into the fourth quarter facing a 21-6 deficit. But Caleb Williams once again cooked up another spicy and icy comeback for the Bears. And yeah, everyone in the Bears responded in kind. And that was even after Jordan Love connected with Matthew Golden on a touchdown. But after that, they went on to score 15 unanswered points in the final 5 minutes to send their cheesehead rivals packing 31-27. And here they are at this point in the divisional, where they won in the wildcard game for their first playoff win since 2010. So 15 years since they won a playoff game. Yep. So yeah, when you look at both of these teams going into it, you have the potential, even in bare weather where it's expected to be very cold, in the fridge with that very cold lasagna, with that self-promotion. I think it's going to snow, but yeah, it's going to be very cold in Chicago this Sunday. So I believe when I checked the weather report on Twitter, but yeah, this still regardless has the potential to be a high scoring shootout game. And if not, maybe a possibility of a run first game and a defensive kind of game. But either way, they could possibly look at the potential of either one of kind of these games. So looking at the injury report for both of these teams, they're going into this relatively healthy. And from the Rams, they're getting some reinforcement. Offensive lineman Kevin Dotson, who hasn't played since week 16 with a sprained ankle, alongside tight end Terrence Ferguson, who missed 2 games with a hamstring injury. They're expected to come back for this one, so that's some good news. Unfortunate news, though, is that corner Ahkello Witherspoon, he re-injured his shoulder blade, which first took him out first knocked him out back on week 2 in Tennessee. So yeah, until he managed to come back for the final 4 games. He injured that last week in Carolina, and now he's out for the playoffs. So even though he was a reserve piece behind Kobe Durant, it's still a hit to the already vulnerable secondary. So yeah, that's still a weak point for the Rams that Carolina exposed again. Meanwhile, for the Chicago Bears, they had their own lost cause, and that was linebacker TJ Edwards. He's going to miss the rest of the playoffs with a leg injury that he suffered in the wildcard game against the Packers. But they do have some positive news on the injury front, and that's CJ Gardner Johnson. Say that a million times fast. He's expected to return as long as he clears the concussion protocol. And offensive lineman Braxton Jones, he is expected to be activated off injured reserve, and he's expected to return once they do so. So some depth behind the offensive line is good for the Bears. So looking at the keys to victory for both of these teams, For the Rams, once they jump out to a lead, don't get conservative. Don't get cute with that lead. Like those two things, they're the reason why they're not NFC West champions. They're not the top seed. And that's why they nearly blew the game in Carolina. Like they go for it on fourth down, fourth and whatever, with less than 2 minutes remaining in the first half. And then you give Bryce Young and the Panthers a chance to score. And I believe they did score before halftime. So that's not exactly what you want to do this time around if you're in Chicago. Like Sean McVay's team, they have to keep their foot on the gas pedal. You got to keep being aggressive if and when they get the lead in Soldier Field. Like don't get conservative, don't get cute. Like trying to do all this silly stuff. Meanwhile, defensively, you got to keep Caleb in the pocket. This young stud front seven defensive front, they can get to Caleb. Like they can find a way to keep Caleb behind the sticks. It's just a matter of whether they can do it. They have the fortitude to do it. So yeah, that's a simple thing. You gotta keep you gotta keep Caleb Williams in the pocket. You can't let him scramble and dance around to find and make something happen. For the Chicago Bears, I always say this every time when I talk about them. No more slow starts. No more starting slow on offense. Because they always tend to do these things almost every game. They start very slow and they live dangerously with the comebacks. At some point, it's going to bite them in the ass. And now that they're playing a much better opponent that can score just as well as they can, this is one of those games that they cannot play around with that, especially in bear weather. So, like I said in last week's Filthy Casual preview to the wildcard game, the Bears have shown that they can score on opposing defenses in a frenzy, like not playing from behind. Like they can jump out to a lead like they did against the 49ers. Like I keep bringing up the shootout between the Bears and the 49ers on Sunday night. Like they can do that here against the Rams, even in bear football weather. So if they're the ones attacking the Rams early with the lead first, then they have to stay aggressive because, like I said, Caleb in this offense can do so. They cannot start slow against this Rams team. And then defensively, they got to find ways to slow down Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams because those two receivers are going to be Matthew Stafford's high targets. Now, the defense for the Bears will get a boost with CJ Gardner-Johnson back in the lineup, but they still got to figure out ways, even with that, with this secondary complement of Jalen Johnson, Kevin Byard, they still got to find ways to shut down that receiver duo because if they don't, they're going to have a lot of trouble in this game. So, that being said, this is going to go a lot of ways in a game where it's going to be very cold in the fridge with that very cold lasagna in bare weather. This could go a lot of ways. It could be a run first game. It could be a high scoring passing game, even in very cold conditions. It can be a defensive kind of game where it could be low scoring. It can go either way. But that being said, Matthew Stafford is very familiar in these kind of situations when he played with the Lions and often played the Bears in, bare weather. I feel like he can overcome this kind of adversity again. So I'm going to get a very slight edge to the LA Rams. And yeah, I say as much as I don't, biasly speaking, yeah, I feel like they make it back to the NFC Championship game. Yeah. So yeah, that is my Filthy Casual preview to NFC and AFC Divisional Playoff Weekend for the 2025 campaign. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to leave me your thoughts on your predictions and other comments on what you expect for all 4 games this coming weekend. And if your team happens to be playing on divisional weekend, let me know how you think they're going to do in the comments below. And if you happen to be listening to this on whatever podcast network you're on, leave me a comment and send me a message on my socials at Very Cold Lasagna. And yeah, let's have a conversation about this upcoming divisional playoff weekend. And yeah, let's just hope my team wins and finds a way to win. So that is it for this episode of the Very Cold Lasagna Podcast. I have been your host, Dylan Lasagna, once again bringing you all the filthy casual takes on the world of sports, putting a wrap on episode number 324. And yeah, as always, keep that lasagna very cold in the fridge, and hope you enjoy Divisional Playoff Weekend 2025 in the NFL. And we'll be back to review it and see what has to come for the next round of the playoffs once we review these set of games. But until I see you in the next one for the next episode, peace out.